Welcome everyone. My name is Lily Genovese. I'm the coordinator for Trout in the Classroom here in New York City and the New York City watersheds. Today we have two students from Susan Wagner High School, which is located in New York City, who will be interviewing for our STEM Fireside Chat, Leslie Weldon, who is the Chief Executive for Work, Environment, and Performance with the U.S. Forest Service. And she actually started her career as a fisheries biologist. So welcome, Leslie, and thank you so much for joining us. And I'd like to turn it over to our students to start with their questions.
Hi, so just to start off a little bit, can you tell us a little bit about before you started your career at the U.S. Forest Service and what you studied or what your educational path was like?
Morning, Ashley. Thank you so much. Before I started, and I did start when I was very young, I started with the Forest Service when I was 19 years old. I, as a kid, have had a real high interest in taking care of nature. And it mainly came through a time when our country was passing laws such as the Endangered Species Act, which really brought to my attention how important it was for us to protect habitat, because the habitat in turn supported so many different fish and wildlife species. So that got my interest going. And then while I was in school, especially high school, I really turned my attention to my science and biology classes. My biology classes were my absolute favorite, but I knew I had to work really hard and stay focused on my math and then my writing work as well. And that all really helped me. Another thing that was really important to me when I was in high school was some of the summer jobs that I had. I was a Youth Conservation Corps student, and that allowed me to spend all of my summers after my sophomore and my junior year in high school working in the woods. And part of that program included a lot of outdoor education. So as I did those two things, it really solidified my interest in natural resources. And from there, I went to college, studied hard, and then found ways to get into my current career.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So my question is, what do you identify as a STEM discipline in your day-to-day role, and how do you use them?
Well, it's really important to think in terms of how do we apply science and technology and math in everything that we do. And the U.S. Forest Service has the word forest in it, but we have careers and work that we do that address ecology, geology, lots of different computer and tech skills, especially with our mapping capabilities. We even have people who coordinate with NASA who do a lot of work with Earth satellites that track and measure what's happening with our weather, which is directly related to wildfire. So there's a real interconnection when you look at the different systems. The hydrology system, which is about watershed health and the connection with rain and snow patterns. There's a real emphasis around ecological systems, such as how wildfire operates on landscapes. It's a way that brings energy and renewal. We also have a real connection between understanding the interplay between different species on the landscape. So something as small and simple as a butterfly or a bat has significant influence on the overall health of the forest. So from a biological and ecological standpoint, from a physical sciences standpoint, and then backing and supporting all of our work with our technology and our computer sciences, all of those are really well linked together. At the Forest Service, we call ourselves an organization that is based on science. And so even though all of what we do provides goods and benefits to the public, it's all founded in our understanding of the diversity of earth sciences and biological sciences and physical sciences connected with the land. And I would add to that social science, because that's all about the interaction of people with each other and people with nature. So all of those fields come together in delivering the mission of the Forest Service, which is to care for the nation's lands and waters and forests.
Well, thank you so much for all that information and insight. Another question we have for you is, how did you originally become interested in this field?
Mm-hmm. I came from a family of 6 kids, 3 boys and 3 girls. And one message my parents gave to all of us was that we could do anything that we put our minds to. We just needed to do our very best and work our hardest. And it was interesting because all of my brothers and sisters chose different things. And I was the person who was always interested in being outside and exploring nature. And I was really happy when I moved into my middle school and high school years to find out that there were actually careers. So as I was saying earlier, being able to be in youth programs, I was a Girl Scout, that's where I took my first camping trips and had a lot of really good exposure to nature. Those early things, as well as, just being willing to explore. There's so much more that I think you can explore today that I didn't have the opportunity because we didn't have, I'm not that old, but we didn't have like access to the internet where you could just learn so much so easily. So a combination of, learning from others and then just going out and finding those experiences that helped connect me to nature is what really led me to that. So I'm really grateful for the freedom that my parents gave me to explore what I wanted to do, especially when they let me go away to camp, for a couple of summers to work hard out in the woods, to learn more. And then that really put me on a path to decide what I wanted to study in college and the career I wanted to pursue.
Yeah, that really opened my eyes out your journey and your advice. So do you have a personal connection to your profession, or did you have a hobby or interest when you were younger that connects to today's profession?
Well, there's a couple of things that I really love to do. I love to hike, and I'm lucky I live right next to a nice municipal park. So every morning I go out and I hike in the woods, and it takes me down to a beaver pond that's active, and in there's so many different birds. I get to see the beavers sometimes if it's not hiding. They're eagles. So my hiking, really allows me to connect with nature, and it's a way for me to have quiet time every day. My other hobbies, I love fishing. I don't get to do it as often as I want, but one of my friends when I first joined the Forest Service taught me how to fish and really got me engaged with that. And then I also am a rock hounder, and I do what's called lapidary work, which is the cutting and polishing of stones. And I just have a small example to show you. I don't know if you'll be able to see it really well, but this was a raw stone that I was able to use some tools at my local nature center in Lapidary Park to cut, to shape and to polish. And I can turn these into jewelry. So that's another connection with just, the natural world, going out and finding the stones and then finding a way to turn them into something beautiful.
Yeah, it's really interesting how you could take small things from your hobbies and eventually create it on. So through your fields in STEM, do you find ways to bring creativity to your career? If so, how do you find ways to connect the logistical side of STEM to creativity?
Well, that is a great question, connecting creativity to the logistical side. I think that in times like we have, with our crisis with climate, with there being such competition, especially in the areas that I work for, people, time, and money. One thing that we've been really creative around is rather than just the people in the federal government doing all the work, we work through lots of partnerships. And, even Trout in the Classroom is an excellent example of that, where there are so many other people, entities who have interest in making sure that we're taking care of nature together. So we have some pretty creative partnerships. Some of them are very sophisticated and some of them are pretty simple. For example, we have in many of our forest communities, people from the local areas who adopt camp areas, they adopt trails, and they take it upon themselves to be the people who go out and make sure that trails are maintained so that others can enjoy them. So it's connecting with the values that people have, the time that they have, with the needs that, for example, the Forest Service has to make sure that these recreation areas are available to everyone. There's some other interesting things that we've done too, where we do enter, as a way of describing the connection of people and land, we use the arts. We have one program called Rise to the Future, And every year there's an award that's given that highlights how an artist connected with people in a way of showing the connection to taking care of the land. And it's always really fun and interesting to see the kind of projects that they bring in. One year, the award was given to a woman who was an artist in the Pacific Northwest who helped her local community pull people together to talk about what was happening with their streams. But she used the art of making fish prints to do it. You know, so they had fish like salmon who had already spawned, and then they were able to put some kinds of paints on them, and they made prints on paper, and everyone was able to bring those home with them. And as they did that, they talked about the salmon life cycle and how it ends with you know, the salmon dying, but in turn the nutrients return to the soil, which in turn help enrich the water, which raises their young that come up in those streams. So the fingerling, the fry, and the hatchlings and all of that, there's this great cycle of life there. So that was a great way to tell that story.
Leslie, thank you so much for joining our STEM Fireside Chat, and thanks for mentioning the important partnerships, and we're so grateful to have you as a partner, and we're also so proud of our students for joining us and helping us with our chat today. I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Thanks again, and have a great rest of the day.
Ivy and Ashley, it was so nice to be able to talk with you, and just want to encourage you all to keep exploring and then go for what your interests are. And we need everyone to help take care of our waters and our land. So thank you so much.